Welcome back to another episode of Entre-Preneur. Today we got Mr. Rhasaan Nichols with us. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
Uh,
for having me, Phil.
no problem, brother. So I've definitely been excited to sit down and build with you as far as all that you do, okay? Because you definitely set the bar, I would say, as far as stepping outside the box, as far as the business ideas, things that are not common within, I would say that we see on an everyday within our communities, right? So, but before we tap into those, give a little background about yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Oh, okay. I guess that's a long answer, but long story short, I am from North Philadelphia, born and raised. Let's see, you and I, we go back to elementary school.
Yes.
I'm not sure when you started at Farrell, but probably at least like fifth grade, I think. Or
Yeah, about I started actually before then, but I think that's when we probably started seeing each
uh-huh.
other and hanging with the same crowd, same friends. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, went to elementary school in the Northeast. I was in a desegregation program, whole nother conversation. Those are real. And went on to Bodine High School, a magnet school in Philadelphia, and got a full scholarship to Yale University, where I graduated with a degree in film studies. And now I own a film production company and now a coffee company.
Wow. Wow. You guys hear that? So this is what we're going to be tapping into today. Mr. Nichols, he's definitely a inspiration. Just talking to him recently and catching up with him, he's definitely inspired me in a major way. And this is where the excitement comes. I've actually, I don't know if you know, I've had a few people reach out to me, tell me how excited they were just to hear this interview and get a chance to watch it. So we're going to get as many gems out of you as possible. Okay, so just be prepared and definitely open up and everyone else tune in, like, comment, subscribe so we can keep this going, so we can keep bringing you other local Black heroes within our communities or even ones that have left our communities and, throughout the world, just so we can learn what it takes to be successful, right? Did you say that? Okay, all right.
Sir.
So your journey as far as going to Yale, right? That took you, I know now you currently live out California, right? So tell us about that journey once you decided to move forward.
Um, well, I mean, I guess we probably need to back up a little bit to, where we know each other from, which is from elementary and middle school, because I think a lot of times we get caught up in people's like success, like they see the big victory, but it's actually the small, victories that add up to those, those public moments, that you hear about, right? So I was a good student in middle school in Farrell, but not the best student. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't particularly focused on my future yet, but I had a lot of potential. So one thing a lot of people don't know about my story is I only got into one high school, actually. So Bodine was the only magnet school that accepted me. So I knew I wanted to definitely go to college by the time I was an eighth grader. So it was really a great decision. So really excelling in high school and having like that attention from a small magnet school, just like 550 students, it really set me up to, achieve something like going, to like a world renowned Ivy League university.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you said you grew up in North Philly, right? Tell us about your upbringing and in your neighborhood, and then also how you brought what you learned from the streets and from into your school into also to today. Now,
Yeah, yeah, my whole family's from North Philly, right, in Temple University's backyard. But I never went to school. I never went to the public schools in my neighborhood. So since the third grade, I was on a bus, for like an hour and a half both ways going up to Northeast Philadelphia, where I was able, to get a, better education. Unfortunately, the public schools, and it probably still is this way, they really just are not the same in every single neighborhood. But I never really, I don't know, I'm one of those people from the hood, but I never fit in. You know, I I was aware at a young age, I think because we went to that middle class neighborhood for elementary where I saw like big houses and like kids that had like both their parents in the home and cars. And I was just like, wow, like, I want this. Like, so, it was good and bad. It made me discontent as a child from a young age because I saw what other people had, but at the same time, it planted that seed of inspiration to know that there was more out there and something for me to strive for.
Okay, good. Now we don't hear much about, you know, film production. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, it's all around us, right? You were just telling me earlier about some audio and giving me advice and everything like that, right? What caught your interest to say, hey, I want to get into film production?
Well, that's that's a long story, but I would say it started at Yale. So I didn't do anything artistic or creative really in high school. I always wanted to be a doctor since I was in middle school. But when I got to Yale, that was the first time I feel like I really experienced a lot of racism and just a new level of alienation. So it was a double-edged sword. So growing up in Philly, I was I was never particularly like in the in crowd because, people say I acted white or like, oh, you trying to talk white, but I don't know why. I always just talk the same. I don't know where I get it. Honestly, I guess that's just who, I've always been a nerd, right?
Yeah.
But then when I get to college, this was the first time I was really accepted by Black people, because most of my peers, they're coming from like the suburbs and areas where like they were the only Black kid in school, middle class Black family. So to them, I was cool. I was Irvin, right? Because I was from Philly. And I was like, really? It was like the first time, I felt I was really accepted by Black people, which was cool. But at the same time, I got the cold shoulder from a lot of white people too, because they just see like a young Black kid in like Dickie pants or like baggy clothes. And that's what we wore back then.
Yeah.
And so it was culture shock. And then I learned that I took this class my sophomore year called Race and Ethnicity in American Politics, changed my life. And I learned that the way that people were treating me had a lot to do with their exposure or lack thereof to people that looked like me. Because like if you've never been to China before, your only experience is what you see on TV or like in a commercial, what you hear, and like you take that as fact, right? Motion pictures imagery is so powerful because it feels so real, regardless of whether it's actually true or authentic, so when I saw that, I was just really convicted to like I wanted to change things so that the next generation wouldn't have to go through what I went through. And then plus I was also experimenting with poetry and like playwriting. I took a playwriting course which I was also accelerating in, so just was a crossroads where I felt like I could really excel in writing and filmmaking versus kind of like struggling through science classes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you talked about like race relations, right? You said you experienced more so in college. You were, I guess, shunned away from the white crowd, but you were accepted more so by the Blacks, correct? So would you say prior to college, what was your relationships race-wise then? Because we did go to a mixed school where you had a little bit of everybody. You had your whites, Asians, your Blacks, Hispanics, you had everybody, right? Did you hang out with a particular race before college, throughout high school or middle school?
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. So, I know what it's like to be on the outskirts from Black people, and I know what it's like to be on the outs, from like the white mainstream, ironically enough. Yeah, when we were at Farrell, we had friends of all different races, and like it was great, and I didn't realize it until I got to college that most people don't have that experience. A lot of people grow up with just people that look like them. Not to say that it's a bad thing, but if you don't teach your children to like, be accepting and to be respectful of differences, it's just not healthy and it's not conducive to learning and growing and creating like a better society. So because, I went to Farrell, which was very diverse, and then I went to Bodine, which was like super diverse. And I had already traveled outside the country. I got to go to Japan as a high school student. I was ready to like explore and like meet everybody. but everyone was not ready to meet me.
I would say I had similar experiences growing up as well. Mainly mine began in middle school, um, where I was, I guess, a little bit opposite where you came from North Philly, where when I was young, my parents moved me to the Northeast Philly. So I primarily was around, Asians, whites, mainly whites. And then coming to school, I still wanted to be around my own. You know what I mean? I had an urgency to be accepted by my own, but back then we were young, man. We cruel. You know what I mean? And I more so experienced. No, you don't come from where we come from. You don't walk like us. You don't talk like us. Like, you know what I mean? So my friends, I've always had a mixed crowd where it was whites, Asians, um, blacks, Indian. I always hung up around a little bit of everybody, which in turn I would say helped me in the long run because it sort of helped me be a little bit more well cultured where I can get along with everybody. You know what I mean? But it's definitely something that I went through as part of who I am today, to where I don't think I was accepted and started hanging around probably to about sixth or seventh grade. To one of our mutual friends, and we'll talk about that, who that was later, to where, then I started hanging around, North and everything like that. But I do, I guess, relate to you in that aspect as well. Now, would you say that helped you be who you are today? And if so, how?
Well, yeah, I mean, 100%, because I think that pain and like the alienation that I experienced in different phases of my life, it gave me a passion to represent our people in a positive light. Yeah, I'm 100% committed to portraying Black people as three-dimensional, as full humans, especially Black men. I want to show the interior, like emotional life of, Black men have feelings too. We're people, we're whole people.
Okay, so this beach was the place where African Americans would hang out during the Jim Crow era. So you guys remember, did you learn in school what Jim Crow era means? You did what you learned.
What I see is this. I see kids that have never been to the beach, number one. So that's the experience in of itself. Then they get out there, and then they see people in the ocean surfing, or playing with nature, or just in the sand, or on a boogie board that look just like them. They're just getting exposure. They're getting outside. Too many kids are doing this.
What are some countries you want to visit?
I want to visit Wakanda.
So just having those experiences affect me so deeply. I just want to help other people and just give us like a better image worldwide.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. That's good, man. That's good. So now let's get into your film production, right? So we talked about how your first class or course in college that sparked your interest within that. Where did you take that at that point?
Well, I started documentaries. So I would make documentaries on campus at Yale for the African American Cultural Center. So it would be about like, welcome to the AFAM house. And like, these are activities. And this is what you could do if you come to Yale, like recruitment videos. And what else did I do? I did a tribute to Black women for the Yale Black Men's Union. It was really, just really nice, like cultural issues and things like that. I knew I wanted to make films, but I just didn't have like the money or like the team at the time. So documentaries were something I could do all by myself, just with a camera, and I could still, get, good stories out of it.
Okay.